Now, I want to apologize ahead of time if my information is sort of slightly wrong because I don't know enough Brazilian comedy. So if I get this wrong, please correct it down below, and I do apologize. Now, let's get started with the video. Now, the last couple of days, a cartoon community reacted to a tweet from Julie from X/Twitter, started responding in question from Mars that asking why do people want Nicole to cheat on Richard? And Julie responded, well, because he's a piece of garbage. In other words, he's lazy, doesn't care about him. But the only problem is the cartoon community responding to Julie that it seems you do not see the series because Richard is a Chad in that you not yet realize it. In fact, Richard is sort of the basically triple A best father of cartoon history. You could say he's a top 5, top 10, but even that, all these questions belongs to Mars responding to another tweet from a channel called Emily retweeting and retranslating a meme from Brazil. That's sort of how Nicole getting tweeted by a lot of different people, all of them saying horrible things, sounding positive, sounding mixed, but it sort of makes sense because if you do understand Brazilian sort of comedy. If you don't, the only thing at least I know is the fact, please correct me if I'm wrong, that Brazilians have a sort of kind of dark sense of humor, but not like super edgelord. It's more like novela over top, left pocket dark humor that you kind of have to understand why these jokes kind of work for them because it is actually kind of funny if you understand what they're trying to do. But because maybe because its own language of Brazilian translating to English, maybe it doesn't work or the context, I don't know. But this is the reason why people were curious who posts this and why people want to cheat, why Nicole should cheat on Richard. It's because something you should not take it serious. It's almost like a troll, in other words. But this is sort of the fascinating thing because this is not the first time Brazilian comics or Brazilian humor kind of shake the Western world. In fact, you have seen this type of humor later on in the past. I think one of the most infamous ones is basically a Subtopia AU called I Survive. Of course, if you never read that AU or how it sort of blew up in the internet back in 2017, basically that AU, you follow Julie and Nick sort of realizing they together and Julie got pregnant but got so scared about the pregnancy she has sort of a abortion and basically divorced Nick, but later on she actually got remarried, turned a lesbian, but became mayor, and Nick became sort of a scout teacher, in other words. But it was sort of very divisive in the West, not even understanding what the creator trying to do of that manga because in the very end it just sort of was satire, but some people got it too serious, too my political belief sort of situation. But once again, that's how Brazilian comedy works. It's more kind of troll type of humor or kind of novella, turn up to 11 just making fun of it or kind of make it cheesy over top now. Where you're trying to at least give you an idea what the direction of that specific comic they're trying to do. Or the Brazilian Mega Man comic that is official from Capcom, who giving Brazilian comic book readers from Brazil, that was also infamous. Now, I don't go into detail how infamous Brazilian Mega Man really was. You could find a video break down the issue with that because it only ran 16 issues, and believe me, it was a weird ride because when you read that, your mouth drops. Even Brazilians kind of hate it because it was very terrible, but very shocking and wild. Like you have nudity, adult situations, and really questionable relationships that I won't go deeper because I don't want to be demonetized. But in other words, it was shocking. Just leave it like that, in other words. Because both comics you were just your mouth just dropped the crazy when you went. But the only difference is you could tell the quality what is bad and good between those comics, because if you read I Survived, you kind of disagree with it or go with the ideas one trying to sell you, but at the very end, it's almost like trolling now, whereas you never should take it serious. This is novella type of humor now words. But the Brazilian version of Mega Man is the part the good example being really, really bad Brazilian humor or Brazilian execution of the idea, because the whole point of that one is sort of drag new Brazilian fans to actually try Mega Man. But that was its own disaster. But it gives you an idea how between what is good and bad Brazilian sort of kind of dark humor in a way. In fact, another good example is sort of Boots and Last Wish, because in that a tragically dubbed version of Brazilian, remember the one the character Perrito, who actually was caught by the three bears in Goldilocks, and Burrito thought they were sort of joking and cussing him back and forth. Remember that sort of was peeped out in the American version. In the Brazilian version, it wasn't beeped out. It was heavily not censored. That thing truly cussed in the Brazilian language, and they just left it that way because it was more funnier. Once again, it's sort of dark humor. But before I continue on, sort of explaining how this sort of misunderstanding, my name is Recho. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, the reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine. We do thank you, because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like you. People who like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Now let's get started of this sort of misunderstand sort of question and the weird answers they got. Now let's get started. Of course, I did enjoy one specific meme about roasting Julie that basically she doesn't really see the series or understand why Nicole has a Chad as a husband, because Julie do point out that Richard is her lazy, doesn't do anything, he's all but himself or no doesn't know what to do. But the show does respond all these questions why he doesn't have a job. Like one of them is basically he cannot get a job because the world be destroyed. A fact, more better example is a fact comparing him all the different dads of animation, like let's say Homer, Peter Griffin, Archer, and many other horrible fathers. But the only difference is the reason why they're slobs, incompetent. They have their own reasons, but at the very end, you don't really care about them that much. But Richard, you do, because he is lazy and incompetent, doesn't know what to do or have common sense, as the show explains it. In fact, he adapts. You could see why Nicole fall in love with Richard, because he's the only one who willing to listen and understand Nicole. Compared to the rest of the fathers of the cartoons, some of them try to do that because the longer they last, the harder to actually care about those characters and kind of ruins it. And the world Gumball, they avoid that because they try to make the joke how lazy Richard really is, but also cover how daring and loved he really is his own family. He's the one who really taking the bullet with his own kids, not because he's a terrible father trying to kind of reclaim his own family once again. No, no. He just does it because he loves them. He doesn't need to prove anything because he shows time and again how much he loves his wife. He's the one who take care of the kids. Then Nicole works. Even that he's not the best at it, but you can see why Nicole sticks to him. He actually showed her she could be happy. Even that he does not fully pull his weight sometimes. He pull his weight in different directions, like how he take care of his own kids. Sometimes a little bad, sometimes very good, but he does evolve. He does improve. And that's sort of the joke of Richard. You show him improving. In fact, there's another episode they playing sort of Dungeons and Dragons. He was sort of the game master, and that whole episode show how he understands the kids and his wife, in other words, emotionally, and they help them kind of deal with any issue they actually have. That's just interesting. In fact, there are other episodes that Richard just waits to Nicole to come home, and he kind of helps out the kids or figure out how to kind of save everybody when he needs to. But I love it. This is not one-sided because usually father figures are just one-sided. I'm too lazy, I don't care, or they do not get punished of the writers who write the jokes from that specific character. Richard does get punished, but also shows you Richard has different ways of caring and the reason why he needs the call because she needs a basically a dominant woman to put the gas on his own brakes to actually do something. Even that sometimes she doesn't ask, he does it. Not comparing to like say Homer or basically Peter for Family Guy. Both of them are very awful father figures and husbands. Even that once in a while they try to prove they're good people, they done more horrible than good, and they just don't know how to come back. If they do, you still question it. With Richard, you kind of don't, because you understand him. The writers understand Richard, how he works, why he does certain things, and how he needs Nicole as equally how Nicole needs Richard. It's sort of an understanding relationship. You understand the fact they do explain why he's kind of lazy is because his mother sort of disabled him to actually functioning correctly, even that over the seasons prove he can do things by himself, not correctly, but he tries. To compare the other dads like Peter or Homer that deserve to be divorced or cheating on, Richard, you actually question that he doesn't need to be proven. He proved himself constantly. In fact, even Nicole sort of divorced him, he has a side woman in the side who willing to take it automatically. Even that the other character who actually is married can actually drop his husband just to pick up Richard. That's how the Chad Richard really is. He doesn't look like it because women are not looking on how fat and lazy. Women look at him that how mentally mature, kind of emotionally mature, willing, picking up, listening to you, doing little things that even matters more than being super responsible. Because people do get confused of being a good dad to be a responsible person. They're two completely things, and this show shows both ways. Shows, yeah, he's not the best responsible person, but it's not the sort of main thing what women are looking for. They're looking for someone who's emotional, who help them to basically deal with their own issues. And Richard will listen. That's what makes Richard a Chad, because he will learn to listen, he also to adapt. Not like the other father figures cartoons that you question why are they still marrying to their own wives. Like it makes more sense like specifically Homer or Peter, their wife should cheat on him or broke on him. Even that they're trying to convince the audience, well, you see, this is the reason why, but the only problem is they've done so many horrible things that overweighs all the good things they actually do. And Richard doesn't have that. I mean, he has his kind of lazy moments, but he always fixes it up the very end. And that's the thing. He does apologize. He does get punished. He does care about his family. Even that he's lazy, but he willing to change a little bit every single time you see him. That's why he is a Chad. The reason why his kids love it, his mom loved it. To compare Homer and Peter or all the other family father cartoon, they just despise their own father and ask themselves, why are you still here? That's sort of how the fans feel, because let's face it, there are a lot of episodes prove Richard why he is a Chad. I don't know how you felt about this. Do I got everything correct or not? Tell me down below. Let me know. Give me your opinion. I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.